Closing the tap on Russian oil sales to Europe through India and Turkey, that's the EU's plan with its latest round of Russia sanctions, and India isn't impressed. Let's rewind. The European Union banned imports of most Russian oil back in 2022 after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. As Moscow sought new customers, it began upping exports to states including India and Turkey. Refineries in those countries transform Russian crude into products like diesel or jet fuel and sell it on to buyers in Europe. This was all totally legal until now. From January, the EU is ending the loophole by banning almost all imports of refined Russian oil products. They haven't worked out exactly how yet, but they'll likely ask exporters to provide evidence of where their oil comes from. India isn't happy about this, and just as the two sides try to hash out a trade deal.
It is important not to have double standards and to have a clear-eyed perception of what the global situation is. There is an important and a serious security issue that is confronting Europe, but the rest of the world is also there and is also dealing with issues that are existential.
So why the accusation of double standards? Well, because some European countries are still buying Russian oil and gas themselves. Some landlocked states like Hungary and Slovakia secured sanctions exemptions and continue to buy Russian oil directly, while buyers in other EU states still seem to have a big appetite for Russian LNG. The EU plans to outlaw all sales of Russian fossil fuels here by the end of 2027, but that's almost 2 years after the bans impacting India are due to kick in. But what about the rest of the sanctions? The EU has also blacklisted more oil tankers from the so-called shadow fleet Moscow uses to evade Western sanctions and lowered its price cap on Russian oil. Side note, that benefits countries like India by making Russian crude cheaper for them to buy. The EU and the UK tried and failed to get the US on board with that tougher price cap.
The US was important in terms of enforcing the policy. We know that their sanctions enforcement is the strongest in the world. And now it's basically over to Europe and the UK to encourage strong enforcement of this lower price cap. To be honest with you, the track record is not so good.
Russia called the latest EU sanctions illegitimate and said they would have no impact on Kremlin policy. And no one here in Europe thinks the moves will choke off Russia's oil revenue because there are other willing customers and because the EU is still treading carefully to avoid energy price spikes. But it's also about the politics of Europe laying down the gauntlet to the US, because the world is still waiting to see if Trump will make good on his promise to slap tariffs on countries that do business with Russia if no peace deal with Ukraine is struck by early September.